All right. Hello and good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you are listening from. This is week 11 of the 13-week fiscal program for American Descendants of Slavery. My name is Chief Biko. Today we have Chief Alligator, Chief Quietwater, Chief Akibalan, and Chief Black Coat will be joining us later. Again, here we focus more so on the first letter of the acronym in ADOS, which is American. And we'll jump straight into the secessions where we left off last week. I know last week we left off on the state of Alabama secession from the Union. This week we'll be going to Georgia and hopefully finishing off the remainder states as far as that make up the Confederacy. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and jump straight into it. Let me enlarge this. Y'all let me know if y'all can see it. Or if I need to.
Yeah.
All right. Again, I'll go ahead and start with Georgia. We, the people of the state of Georgia, in convention assembled, do declare and ordain, and it is hereby declared and ordained that the ordinance adopted by the state of Georgia in convention on the second day of January, yes, and that's January, in the Lord 1708, whereby the Constitution of the United States of America was assented to, ratified, and adopted, and also all acts and parts of acts of the General Assembly of this state, ratifying and adopting amendments to said Constitution are hereby repealed, rescinded, and abrogated. I'll just stop right there for the first part. Pretty much what I took away from this, pretty much the same as the other states. They were pretty much declaring their secession from the Union or from the United States government. And it looks like they actually joined the United States government on the second day of January in 1788. Looks like that's when they actually became officially a part of the Union before they actually seceded in this document here. Let me see. Get that out the way. I'll go ahead and continue. We do further declare and ordain that the union now existing between the state of Georgia and other states under the name of the United States of America is hereby dissolved, and that the state of Georgia is in full possession and exercise of all those rights of sovereignty which belong and appertain to a free and independent state. And this was passed January 19th, 1861. So again, kind of what we talked about last week is pretty much all of these states are seceded in the same time frame. So we can see like a little bit above here, Alabama seceded January 11th, same year. If you were to move up a little bit further, that up there, January 10th was Florida, and then January 9th was Mississippi. So it's pretty much everybody's kind of on code as far as the quote unquote slave owning states, which we know to be prisoner of war camps. They all pretty much are on code in seceding from the United States government around the same time. So they probably had a certain outline of when they wanted to have this all done for these particular states to make sure that they can, combine themselves and create what we know to be the Confederacy, which is our original form of government in the Americas. And give me one moment, y'all. I'm trying to see if I can see any things. All right. I'll go ahead and continue. Louisiana. An ordinance to dissolve the union between the state of Louisiana and other states united with her under the compact entitled the Constitution of the United States of America. We, the people of the state of Louisiana, in convention assembled, do declare and ordain, and it is hereby declared and ordained that the ordinance passed by us in convention on the 22nd day of November in the year 1811 whereby the Constitution of the United States of America and the amendments of the said Constitution were adopted, and all laws and ordinances by which the state of Louisiana became a member of the federal union be and the same are hereby repealed and abrogated, and that the union now subsisting between Louisiana and other states under the name of the United States of America is hereby dissolved. Pretty much again, kind of following the same footsteps as their other Confederate states there in seceding again from the federal union, federal government, United States government. They're pretty much doing the same thing. As we see here, Louisiana was actually became a part of the United States government. It looks like much later than the other states. I believe it said 1811. Yeah, year 1811, November 22nd. So they weren't even really a part of the government for too long before they went ahead and seceded as well. We also know this is one of the main areas in which they were bringing a lot of our ancestors up through in regards to the Mississippi, landing in what we know as today as New Orleans, moving up north within the Mississippi River to go to Oklahoma, which was the Indian Territory, as they called it, for that time frame. So here's look like they're again following in the same footsteps, and just to make sure we are all, on the same page. We the people of the state of Louisiana, that would be, the government or their local government per se. So you got your governors, your secretary of states, your mayors, people like that. So it isn't like a large body of people. So when we're seeing this, the people just continue to, reemphasize and keep in mind that it's not the entire state of people living in Louisiana. It's just that small body of people. Let's see here. Did anybody want to pick up on this part? We do further declare.
I can go ahead and do it.
Okay.
We do further declare and ordain that the state of Louisiana hereby resumes all rights and powers heretofore delegated to the government of the United States, that her citizens are absolved from all allegiance to said government, and that she is in full possession and exercise all of those rights of sovereignty which appertain to a free and independent state. We do further declare and ordain that all rights acquired and vested under the Constitution of the United States or any acts of Congress or treaty or under any law of this state and not incompatible with this ordinance shall remain in force and have the same effect as if this ordinance has not been passed. Adopted in convention at Baton Rouge this 26th day of January 1861. So again, like you mentioned before, and as we've stated in the previous states before, it seems like they were all, may not have been in agreement with everything, but there was all one common goal that they were all working towards. And is evident with Louisiana as well.
Definitely. One thing that stood out, I believe, I'm not sure if this is the first time we've seen this as far as the but I believe another same thing, and pretty much what they're saying is any of the laws that, quite frankly, benefit Louisiana, we're going to keep those.
Oh, okay, got you. Yeah. Shall remain in force and have the same effect. Okay, as if this ordinance had not been passed. Got you. Okay.
Right. And one thing we know, the Constitution later on today during our readings, see this key word here, treaty. And what we know is treaty is the highest law of the land or supreme law of the land. So they would definitely want to make sure that they are upholding any treaties that have been signed, which we know, Treaty of Moultrie Creek, Treaty of Payne's Landing, any treaties that they might have had while doing battle in that state that they signed off. They want to make sure that those are still being honored, because again, if they were to say all constitutions or pretty much, really secede from everything regarding the government, then they would also be seceding to any treaties that they made with our ancestors. So this is kind of like, again, them being a little bit slick in making sure like, okay, anything that is compatible with this ordinance, we're going to make sure we keep to enforce that.
Okay, got it. I can do Texas, start off with Texas. An ordinance to dissolve the union between the state of Texas and other states united under the compact styled the Constitution of the United States of America, whereas the federal government has failed to accomplish the purposes of the compact of union between these states and given protection either to the persons of our people upon an exposed frontier or to property of our citizens. So it's a little bit more language here. I'm not too sure what they mean by other states compact style, the Constitution of the United States of America. Anybody know what that means? The first sentence.
I think by compact, that's just their way of saying contract. That's what I assumed.
Okay. I'm not sure what that means. Okay. I'll continue. Whereas,
in Chief Quietwater, we have to remember that each of these estates, they're bound together by the federal government. So that's the compact, which is the United States government's constitution. It binds all 50 of these states.
Okay.
So the federal government is supposed to oversee any issue that any individual state has. The federal government is supposed to come in and say, okay, here's where we stand on that.
Okay.
So that's that compact, that constitution, it makes all those 50.
Got you. Okay. Got you. Under one umbrella of, okay, I got you.
That's the parent company. Yep.
Okay. Whereas the action of northern states of the Union is violative of the compact between the states and the guarantees of the Constitution. And whereas the recent developments in federal affairs make it evident that the power of the federal government is sought to be made a weapon with which to strike down the interests and property of the people of Texas and her sister slave holding states, instead of permitting it to be, as was intended, our shield against outrage and aggression. So basically, they're calling out the federal government. They're calling out the federal government. Okay. Section 1, we the people of the state of Texas by delegates in convention assembled do declare and ordain that the ordinance adopted by our convention of delegates on the 4th day of July, AD 1845, and afterwards ratified by us, under which the Republic of Texas was admitted into the Union with other states and became a party to the compact style, the Constitution of the United States of America, be and is hereby repealed and annulled, that all powers which by the said compact were delegated by Texas to the federal government are revoked and resumed. That Texas is a right absolved from all restraints and obligations incurred by said compact and a separate sovereign state, and that her citizens and people are absolved from all the allegiance to the United States or the government thereof. So they're basically saying what all the other states were saying as well in regards to being absolved from the allegiance to the United States. Okay. So section 2, the ordinance shall be submitted to the people of Texas for their ratification or rejection by the qualified voters on the 23rd day of February, 1861, and unless rejected by a majority of votes cast, shall take effect and be enforced on and after the 2nd day of March, AD 1861, provided that in the representation district of El Paso, said election may be held on the 18th day of February 1861. Done by the people of the state of Texas in convention assembled at Austin this first day of February AD 1861, and ratified February 23rd, 1861 by a vote of 46,153 for and 14,747 against.
This one is
Okay.
here, and this is probably one that is definitely different from the other. See that they use the term, but they also, in essence, held in a vote on it with the people. So that was something different from the other states that we've pretty much gone over thus far, and they actually voted to ratify from the Constitution, as Chief Quietwater just stated within this vote by reading this vote count here. So that was something that I just wanted to call out. That was pretty much unique to Texas, in which we read thus far. Go ahead, Chief Alligator.
Is there a way that you can highlight that second paragraph where it says whereas under Texas? The first one up, the second section. So it says, and ordinances would be number one, then right up under that, the one right above it. Right here, where it says after that comma, and giving protection either to the persons of our people upon an exposed frontier or to the property of our citizens. So the state of Texas is telling the United States or the federal government why we're succeeding. And that rhymes exactly with where we are in 2021. We don't have protection from the United States government. That was the purpose of the George Floyd Act. They quietly threw that in the trash 2 months ago. We are just unaware of that. And when you look at the history of redlining, as Chief Akibalon has mentioned on previous weeks, you look at all the property that has been taken by eminent domain or redlining, running railroads through our what used to be communities, running highways, what used to be through our communities. We can do that exact same thing that Texas did based on the same grounds. Why are you trying? You're not a citizen of the federal government. You don't have protection. As it clearly says, whereas the federal government has failed to accomplish the purposes of the Compact of Union between these states in giving protection either to the persons of our people upon an exposed frontier or to the property of our citizens. We don't get protection from other people, and we don't get protection of our property. So I just wanted to raise that just to kind of pose a question to ourselves. When we say we're prisoners of war, if your government's not protecting you, what else are you? And that's in 2021 today.
Great call out. Great call out. That definitely went over my head when first reading it, just in regards to relation to what we're dealing with now. But as Chief Alligator stated, this is something that we can do now. And when we get into our readings before we wrap up the show, we're going to read how we don't even have anything specific like this coming from the people that's supposed to represent us. So that's just in alignment with what Chief Alligator stated as far as, us being prisoners of war. We're not getting any protections, and we are being treated as citizens, even though, 14th, 15th, and 16th Amendment was supposed to be for us. So just great call out there, Chief Alligator, and just something to think about for the viewer. Who wanted to pick up on Virginia?
I'll do Virginia for you. Yeah, I'll do it for you. Virginia. An ordinance to repeal the ratification of the Constitution of the United States of America by the state of Virginia and to resume all the rights and powers granted under said Constitution. The people of Virginia, in their ratification of the Constitution of the United States of America, adopted by them in convention on the 25th day of June, in the year of our Lord, 1788, have declared that the powers granted under said Constitution were derived from the people of the United States and might be resumed whensoever the same should be perverted to their injury and oppression. And the federal government having perverted said powers, not only to the injury of the people of Virginia, but to the oppression of the Southern slave holding states. So the state of Virginia, to me, in this little paragraph is basically kind of rhyming with what Texas said. The federal government is not coming in and protecting them. And on top of that, they've got an issue with those states not being protected that actually hold prisoners of war. And we know they're prisoners of war because the military was going into treaty with those nations, not the United States government. So if you're contracting with another group of people's military, then you're military occupied. So that's what I'm taking from this first paragraph. I'll keep going and then we can build at the end of it. Now, therefore, we the people of Virginia do declare and ordain that the ordinance adopted by the people of this state and convention on the 25th day of June. I just did that, correct? No? Okay. All right, let me pick back up. All right, I got you. Now, therefore, we the people of Virginia do declare and ordain that the ordinance adopted by the people of this state in convention on the 25th day of June in the year of our Lord, 1788, whereby the Constitution of the United States of America was ratified, and all acts of the General Assembly of this state ratifying and adopting amendments to said Constitution are hereby repealed and abrogated, that the union between the state of Virginia and the other states under the Constitution aforesaid is hereby dissolved, and that the state of Virginia is in full possession and exercise of all the rights of sovereignty which belong and appertain to a free and independent state. And they do further declare that the said Constitution of the United States of America is no longer binding on any of the citizens of this state. This ordinance shall take effect and be an act of this day when ratified by a majority of the voter of the people of this state, cast at a poll to be taken thereon on the 4th Thursday in May next, in pursuance of a scheduled hereafter to be enacted, adopted by the Convention of Virginia, April 17th, 1861, ratified by a vote of 132,201 to 37,451 on 23rd May, 1861. So what jumps out to me in all of these different states seceding, they keep claiming sovereignty and the right to appertain to be a free and independent state. The first thing jumps out to me is confederations are an American form of government. You have to understand that when you hear the word Confederacy, it's an American form of government. We did not have states. We had tribes and confederacies and nations within those confederacies. They're coming in and they're creating states under a federal government called the United States government. So with that being said, it's fictitious because that's not the way government was ran on this land. Government was ran by confederacies, right? So they're creating states. And then you got to think, people, if you put yourself back in this time, nobody melanated was a citizen of these states. So this was them organizing themselves amongst themselves. They had their own elected officials. They were doing their own voting. And they were basically saying, hey, we're down here waging war with a rogue military. You're not giving us any backup against these Americans. So we're going to pull out of this compact called the Constitution of the United States. And we're going to pretty much band together with the other prisoner of war holding states in the Southeast region of America, and we'll just do our own thing. But we have to understand, how can they claim sovereignty under a state when that state is not an original form of government on this land? So I'm saying that to say that we can do the same thing. If foreigners can come from Europe and claim to be sovereign on a new land, the only thing that allowed them to do that was they had protection, which goes back to the Maroon historical points. You got to have a defense for your people. The only way they could do that against their government was because they had militia, which turned into their military. I'll stop right there.
And also, I was going to say that further shows that we were not a part of their constitution when they thought of it, and you know, what they were doing, we were not a part of it. So
I like to say too, just backing off of what Chief Alligator said, it's just like where the people don't realize that they're in a system that it's not the natural system. So when people say that things may feel off or they feel like things are not for you, it's because the system, it was not built for you. We were on a completely different system than what things are running on right now. So of course that we feel alienated and things like that. We have to create our own system, because we have to recreate what we already came from and get out of the system that was made around us.
Great point. Great point there. Pretty much the blueprint is here, folks, for what we can do. You know, there's information that can be learned from the enemy, and it pretty much, as Chief Alligator stated, as well as Chief Quietwater and Chief Keebalon, look, if they're making up, you know, these fictitious things called states and claiming sovereignty of these fictitious, you know, areas or carving outs of land, we can do the same thing with our people. Again, we aren't getting any protections from being classified as a United States citizen. So why not, you know, try something different? The only thing we have to make sure that we have, again, Chief Alligator stated with the Maroon Historic Points, is having that protection, having those arms to make sure that when we do come to, you know, the table, that we have, you know, our armed forces to, you know, back us up. And that's pretty much what we have to get to. So yeah, the blueprint is here, people. The blueprint is here. I see Chief Black Coats. I'm not sure if he's in. Okay, he's in. Okay, perfect. What's going on there, Chief Black Coat? We're going to go and start Arkansas. Did anybody want to pick up Chief Keebalon or Chief Black Coat in Arkansas secession?
Oh yeah, Arkansas.
Yeah. But I can't focus. I'm driving.
I got it. An ordinance to dissolve the union now existing between the states of Arkansas and the states united with her under the compact entitled the Constitution of the United States of America. Whereas in addition to the well-founded causes of complaint set forth by this conviction and resolutions adopted on the 11th of March AD 1861 against the Selectional Party now in power in Washington City, headed by Abraham Lincoln, he has, in the face of resolutions passed by the convention, pledging the state of Arkansas to resist to the last extremity an attempt on the part of such power to coerce any state that has seceded from the old union, proclaim to the world that the war should be waged against such states until they should be compelled to submit to their rule. And large forces to accomplish this have by the same power been called out and are now being marshaled to carry out this inhuman design and to no longer submit to such rule or remain to the old union of the United States, which would be disgraced in unions of the state of Arkansas. Okay, so this is Arkansas secession or seceding secession letter to the United States. Anybody want to talk on that one?
Me, it's pretty much following the same footsteps as the other states. Just from there.
Let me turn you guys up real quick.
Can you?
Yep, I got you.
All right. Go ahead, Chief Alligator.
Yeah, I was gonna help him out real quick on that. What's that second sentence right after March AD 1861, where it says against the sectional party now in power in Washington City, headed by Abraham Lincoln.
Right.
So that's just a little note about American history and the history of the United States government, we can see that prior to the Civil War, Washington was not a District of Columbia, it was a city.
Mm,
Okay.
correct.
Because Philadelphia was their first capital. So it looks like Lincoln is in now what they call Washington City. On the other end of this Civil War, it's going to turn into Washington District of Columbia. Washington is not a city. You don't really recognize or respect that until you actually go there and you see there's no county police, there's no municipality police, everything's federal. That whole little 10 square mile area is federal land. I'll stop right there.
No, that was a good point. I'll continue reading. Therefore, we the people of the state of Arkansas and conviction assemble, do hereby declare and ordain, and is hereby declared and ordained, that the ordinance and acceptance of compact passed and approved by the General Assembly of the state of Arkansas on the 18th day of October, AD 1836, whereby the provisions of the ordinance adopted by this conviction and delegates assembled at Little Rock for the purpose of forming a constitution and system of government for the said state. The proposition set forth in an act supplementary to act and entitle an act for the admission of the state of Arkansas and the Union, and to provide for the due execution of the laws and the United States within the same, and for the other purposes, were freely accepted, ratified, and irrevocably confirmed articles of compact and union between the state of Arkansas and the United States, and other laws and every other law and ordinance whereby the state of Arkansas become a member of the federal union, be and the same and hereby in all aspects and for every purpose herewith consent repealed, abrogated, and fully set aside, and the union now subsisting between the state of Arkansas and other states under the name of the United States of America is hereby forever dissolved. So that in that deep paragraph, Arkansas was very elaborate in everything they wanted to set forward going forward, trying to secede from the United States government. Yeah, they wanted no type of anything dealing with the United States of America government out there in Washington, D.C. Anybody else want to speak on that?
Go ahead, Chief Alligator, then you'll be next, Chief Whitewater.
Okay, you were gonna go first, Chief? Oh, okay. Yeah, like you just read, they were not getting what they wanted from the United States government. So they organized and had an assembly and basically just told the United States government via a document, because it's a corporation. So corporations can't physically talk to each other. The only way a corporate fiction can communicate with another corporate fiction would be through documentation. So the Europeans are writing these orders of secession, right? In this make-believe world of states and a federal government, because right before you came in, we were talking about Confederacy as an American form of government. So this whole thing is fake. But again, I keep coming back to what we can take from this. They did not like what the federal government was doing on their behalf. And so they're saying we no longer want to be citizens of it. How much more does it take for us?
Right.
We don't have federal protection. You don't get any specific financial resources. They've stolen all your industries that you invented. You don't get a percentage of income from anything that your ancestors have created for the world to benefit from. What's stopping you from doing exactly what these peasants did to their own government? They basically just read documents and were like, you ain't protecting us, so hell, we ain't citizens of it.
Right, I like how you,
yeah.
Oh no,
oh no, I was just gonna say it literally just took them organizing, and it didn't take a massive amount of people. If we look It was ratified by a vote of 132, thousand people. That's a very small number. And if you look at the mass of us, that's a very small number for us to get together and say, hey, let's do this, let's stick with it, and let's make a change. And that's all they did was organize.
Yeah, piggyback off of Chief Alligator, how he pretty much said everything's already fake. So you got the union sending letters because, hey, we're already playing this game, so let's continue to play the game, sending it to the government, sending it to the United States government, fictitious entity. Hey, okay, we down here in Arkansas, whatever borders off Arkansas, we no longer want to deal with you. As Chief Alligator said, they weren't getting anything from them. So now it's at this point, it's like, what do we need you for? So they're just writing their letters, documenting it, putting it on paper, pretty much, sending it out. Of course, none of this ever worked out in the long run, but that was a good point that Chief Alligator had brought up. I want to scroll down for me.
Another thing I just want to add is we gotta get on the common goal. Like a lot of us got our goals. It's like there's not one huge common goal, and I think that's what these people have when they wrote these documents. They all felt the same, and they all vocalized about how they feel about the United States, and they had a common goal and they achieved it. I think that's a big part, just having that common goal for having that actual the end goal in mind, and not just having it for like a week or something, but having that.
No, that's correct. That's correct. Like you stated there, Chief, keep in line, that's been pretty much the common theme in reading these secessions with these different states. They all were pretty much on the same page, it was all on one code, even down to when they wanted to have the secessions enacted or ratified. A lot of them beginning of January, others, March, May, as we can see this, I believe the other state as well. So pretty much everybody was on code. I do want to stop here to make sure we have time to go through our readings. But definitely,
I'm gonna add one more thing to that last paragraph as well. You can hear the businessmen in these secessions. Like, these aren't just your average everyday working in the courthouse type people. These were your thinkers, because like how detailed they were would explain to the United States government, we no longer want to do business. They went in depth to make sure they understood what was being said. Again, none of this ever worked out in the long run, but you could just tell these were your thinkers, and pretty much your thinkers in the field writing these secessions up, because every state has a similar type of language, but everybody could pretty much saying, yeah, everything is dissolved.
They all had the same format.
Right.
Guarantee the people I said, just being on code with the same format, even down to the whole the year of our Lord. Like, they was all on code with everything. So again, it's stuff we can take away from the enemy and implement for ourselves in regards to making sure we get what we want on this landmass. Because like Chief Blacko stated, they had the right people in these meetings. It wasn't your preachers being sent out here. So again, we'll go ahead and stop here. Second to last paragraph in Arkansas, and we'll pick up there for next week. We're going to go ahead and jump into our readings. Stop sharing my screen. So for this week, the 12 steps were you going to read the 12 steps this week, Chief Quietwater?
That was me. We didn't change the 12 steps, did we? It's all the same, correct?
Yeah, they're the same.
All right. I gotta pull it back up.
Okay.
Lord have mercy, it's all savings on my own files. Bear with me, guys.
You want me to help you out?
Yeah, if anybody can pull it up on the computer screen. Right now I'm trying to go through my files on my phone. Came in a little late, weren't prepared.
I got you. I'm gonna put it up over here.
Hold on. I gotta put these in better order.
All right. Let me know if you once you see it there.
Oh, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. We're getting close. Hold on.
Yep.
Oh, you got it up on TV. Even better. Zoom in just a little bit for me. I'm in the computer screen. Just a little bit. All right, 13-week practical program of action for each American descendant of slavery. Step number 1, learn about the state or states your family originated from. Step number 2, who established that state. Step number 3, what nation or confederacy had jurisdiction over that area prior to the European. Step number 4, ask all nonprofit organizations you attend what's your position on reparation. Number 5, they either support it or they don't. No support, no money. However, if they support it, then immediately children and adults need weekly classes free of charge about steps 1 and 2, and field trips to ADOS landmarks in that city, county, and state. Step number 3, don't support European holidays for the remainder of a 13-week time frame. Avoid spending money with any small business that does not or doesn't hire your people, gas stations, nail salons, subways, etc. Step number 8, all businesses need operating cash, spending money with Black businesses. Step number 9, all other groups rely on your energy and operating cash to survive. Set the trend of making other groups follow our lead and support our clubs, services, products, and entertainment. Step number 10, the U.S. government is bankrupt. The Federal Reserve prints money, i.e. quantitative easing. It also burns money, i.e. quantitative teething. The U.S. dollar has been backed by gold since Richard Nixon 1971, Since the Gold Standard Act, the government operates off full faith of its citizens to pay debts and taxes. American descendants of slavery no longer have faith in the United States government. This is why financial support will be altered, stopped, and redirected. Step number 12, teach your kids 1 hour a day about the history on this land. Have them learn about Black Inventor. Have them know about our heroes. They should know the European that conquered that estate you live in. They should know the nation of people prior to the European invasion, military and culturally. Step number 12, practicing these steps will educate us on land we are claiming America and attaches us to the history and laws of the United States government. Each estate American descendants of slavery live in should have steps 1, 2, and 3 advertised via social media, radio, and newspaper. This in a 13-week, 1 physical quarter will bring us together for our common cause. Sorry about that lateness, but we got it in.
Next, we'll have Chief Alligator read the Inventor for this week. Whenever you're ready, that Chief Alligator.
Okay. So once again, we're going to do Granville T. Woods. Mr. Woods was born to free Americans. And over the previous weeks, I was mentioning about the systems that he invented. So the first system was the telephone system. The second system was the system of electrical distribution. And the third system was the apparatus for transmission of messages, which would be like your Morse code and everything like that. So today we're going to do the electromotive railway system. So when you remember trains with the coal coming out the top. So not only did he invent the electrical system for like your subways in Chicago, New York, Atlanta, if you want to use the MARTA, for example, he also invented the electromotive railway system, which means that it ran off of an engine. And back then it was coal. So that federal patent number for the electromotive railway system is going to be federal patent number 385034. And he invented that system June 26, 1888. Again, that's Granville T. Woods. His image is behind me. So whether you're riding on an electrical train that runs off electricity, or you're riding on a train that is powered by a motor with coal, gasoline, or steam, you couldn't travel via railroad or via train if it wasn't for the man on the image behind me, Granville T. Woods, AKA the Black Edison. That's this week's Inventor.
Thank you, Chief Alligator. This week, I'll quote. The quote I want to read for this week would be, let me see which one I want to do. I'm going to read quote 5 from Dr. Carter G. Woodson. Quote 5 reads, "Real education means to inspire people to live more abundantly, to learn to begin with life as they find it and make it better. But the instruction so far given Negroes in colleges and universities has worked to the contrary. In most cases, such graduates have merely increased the number of malcontents who offer no program for changing the undesirable conditions about which they complain. One should rely upon protest only when it is supported by constructive program." That is the quote for this week from Dr. Carter G. Woodson. And last but not least, Chief Quietwater is going to read the legal definitions as well as maroon historical points. Oh, got you muted.
Okay, I'm going to start with the legal definition. So number 1, American, a native of America. Number 2, descendants, one who follows in the bloodline of an ancestor, either lineally or collaterally. Number 3, slavery, a situation in which one person has absolute power over the life, fortune, and liberty of another. Number 4, prisoner of war, a person, usually a soldier, who is captured by or surrenders to the enemy in wartime. Number 5, school, an institution at which instruction is given in a particular discipline. Number 6, education, an enlightening experience. And then the maroon historical points. Number 1 was a person escaping slavery, seeking freedom, or breaking the law. Number 2, providing unity and a strong defense came first. Number 3, maroon leaders were first and foremost military figures. Number 4, maroons established guerrilla warfare, planting sharp sticks in thick grass. And number 5, maroons knew their European enemies' language, defenses, and plans.
And thank you, Chief Whitewater. Last but not least, we're going to go over again the Constitution. First, stopping in section 1, Article 1, rather, section 10. Let me share my screen here. All right. So again, Article 1, Section 10, no state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts. Again, read in the 12 steps, pretty much gold was taken out of the government with the Gold Standard Act, 1971. And according to the Constitution, gold and silver are only tender in payment of debts. So this current paper that we're using for transactions, this fiat is a fiat currency. It's not backed by anything. It's pretty much just backed by the faith of its citizens, which would be us and any other groups of people classified as a U.S. citizen. So again, people, this make-believe monopoly game that we're playing, we can easily get up out of this. We just read some of the seceding states within the Confederation, and what they did wasn't rocket science. It was pretty simple as far as what they wrote up and what they submitted to the Union at the time for pretty much their sovereignty. And we can do the same. We can do the same because obviously what they're classifying as actual money and actual tender for payment of debts, they aren't even living by, or that's not even the standard anymore, since it was taken out of the system as far as gold and silver. That's just one thing. And also, we can see here, Confederation. This was strictly written, or purposely written rather, in this section to let them know confederations can no longer be established on this land. But we see that this Constitution supersedes, any of those, secessions that those states had made, and also any of the confederacies that came after it. Because as Chief Alligator stated, we had confederacies prior to the European, or prior to this government being established, this United States government. Because confederations or confederacy is an American form of democracy. Let me see here.
I don't know
Chief.
why.
Breaking up there. Chief Quiet Water, did you want to add anything? I saw your hand was up. Or Chief Alligator.
I'm breaking up.
Can you hear me now?
All right, my bad. I just wanted to add one thing on the gold and silver. Make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts. So here we are, December 2021. We just read the steps, so we understand that the Gold Standard Act happened in 1971. That's the decade of the 70s. The decade of the 70s is also classified as Generation X, which is the generation that I was born in, as well as Chief Quietwater. And so that Generation X is a double-edged sword. We're either going to be annihilated. This is the generation that would be the erasing of this group of people, the real Americans, or we can come to realize that this is the weakest that this United States government has ever been, because as of right now, it has no money. It has no money. It separated the gold standard from their paper. It's simply fiat. And so now we're living in a time where everybody wants to go with Bitcoin. That's just one step further from fiat. You're even more in the make-believe. The world knows gold and silver is money. So the United States government has not only tricked its own citizens, which would be European descent people, but it's also tricked the American that's been under military occupation since they established their government, and the world. Because that fiat currency called the United States dollar, that is the world trade instrument as of December 2021. But what we're seeing due to the shortages of product worldwide, especially on this landmass, is people don't want to do business under that fiat anymore. So I'm just bringing that up to say that it may sound outrageous to stop supporting this government, but this is actually the perfect time because they're at their weakest point. They have no money. The only way this thing keeps going on is if you mentally believe that it's the best option for you. And so we're just going through American history, asking our people, is this government the best option for you? You don't get protection. You don't get specific benefits. What's the point? I'll stop right there.
Great point. Go ahead and slide down to Article 6. Let's see, yeah. All right, Article 6. The Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. We saw in, I forget which state it was, it might have been Louisiana, but they pretty much specifically stated treaty in their secession. And the reason why they wanted to keep that is right here. All treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land. So again, as we were stating, if those treaties weren't to be honored in particular any treaties within that state of Louisiana, then they would be pretty much seceding the supremacist or the highest law of the land, which was that treaty. So any deals they might have made with our ancestors in regards to that, they would be void at that point. So now they would have a bigger issue. So that's why they put anything not incompatible. That statement when that phrase when they said not incompatible, that was pretty much because of this right here. And lastly, before we close out, I believe it was section or Article 2 in regards to the militia. Hard to get on, is it 5? Oh yeah. So Article 2, Section 2. Give me okay, Article 2, Section 2. The president shall be the commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militia of the several states. When called into actual service of the United States, he may require the opinion in writing of the principal officer in each of the executive departments upon any subject relating to the duties of their respective offices, and he shall have power to grant reprieves and pardons of the offenses against the United States, except in the case of impeachment. But the main thing we want to really highlight would be this part. The president shall be commander-in-chief of the Army, Navy of the United States, and of the militia of the several states. So when we see Kyle Rittenhouse walk for pretty much murder, this is the reason why. It's not because of Kyle Rittenhouse, it's basically because of what he represented, which was the militia. So if the militia, or if he were to be convicted, then they would be pretty much convicting the militia. So again, the commander-in-chief, and this pretty much just further reemphasizes how we are prisoners of war under military occupation right here. Right in this section here. This pretty much explains us being military occupied on this line, on our line. Any thoughts on that before we wrap up?
Yeah, I'll throw one thing in. I think he's actually getting paid to do guest appearances on a lot of large European platforms ever since he got found not guilty. And so he's being deemed as a United States government hero. Notice my language. Notice I'm specific with United States government and not American. It's a difference. He's a United States government hero, but why? Because the United States government, the president is control over that, and the militia is one of those entities that he's in control over. So again, we think racism, but we don't know the structure of this government that we've been oppressed by since its founding. I'll go into more of that when you go to the Black Caucus and those other caucuses. I'll stop right there.
Right. No, it's a great point, because we got to make sure that we're keeping in mind that we have to separate the land from this fictitious company or government in the United States. So as he stated, he's a United States hero, but not an American hero. So making sure that we are, conscious of the difference between the two. And lastly, before we wrap up, go ahead and share my screen. We always got to highlight our heroes, people who supposed to be representing us. We got to give them their due diligence, their honor for doing nothing. So I'll let Chief Alligator go ahead and state what he would like.
Yeah, I would just like to tie it back in what we talked about when you read gold and silver is the only form of payment for any debt. Let's just look at the first sentence. So the same year that the United States government separated gold from their government's form of money, because the dollar was money prior to 1971. Now, I want y'all to look at the correlation. If we're not prisoners of war, why is it that you became a citizen Supposedly in 1866, at the end of the Civil War, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment were added for you. So you went from Seminole, Creek, Cherokee, Chickasaw, Choctaw to United States citizen. But it took another 100 years for you to be able to vote, hold public office, not be killed, and nobody be charged with murder. So in 1965, you get the right to vote, hold public office. They're going through desegregation, the whole nine. 1971, they separate the gold and dollar relationship, and they also give you a Black congressional caucus. Why is that key? They took the money out the system because they never intended on you being a citizen of their government. They never budgeted for you. Which brings us into Generation X. How long can we go before they figure this out? When they made you a citizen of the United States government, they took the money out of the system. Right there. Now, this is their 50th year anniversary, the Black Congressional Caucus. In 50 years, you've had a war on drugs, a war on poverty, a war on crime. You have school to prison pipeline. Okay? These people have done nothing, and they deserve the attention that they get on a weekly basis. We have to beat that drum. These people have done nothing in 50 years of existence. I'll stop right there if somebody else wants to build on that, but I want y'all to see the correlation. They took the money out the system as soon as they gave you a political platform to hear your concerns. However, look at the wordplay if you want to highlight it, Chief Biko, where it says marginalized communities, Afro-Americans and other marginalized communities. Whoever's the writer for this About Us section on their website, Afro-American wasn't even a term in 1971. So it's called the Black Caucus, but you got Afro-American down here. And then you got other marginalized communities. So we can clearly see these are accounting terms. And I don't know how long it's going to take for our people to understand you're not specifically itemized. It's almost like when you know you got to pay your light bill. You know exactly how much that check's got to be for you to pay that light bill. You never know how much quote unquote Black people are supposed to get because you're lumped in with other marginalized communities. Who are those marginalized communities? Immigrants, gays, handicaps, illegal immigrants, and European women. And you wonder why you're losing. I'll stop right there.
You pretty much said it all right there. You pretty much said it all. Like if it's not, obvious at this point, people, then what more do we need to show you? You just stated they gave us supposedly a voice to, represent our people in their government in 1971, but at the same time, they took the actual money out of the government. Why do you think that is? As you just stated, they never intended to pay us or give us or itemize our specific group for payment for this government. So they said, damn that, we'll take out everything from this government before we give our prisoners of war anything. So let's just keep that in the back of our mind. And again, this African American term, as he stated, wasn't a thing in 1971. So just further putting us in a state of confusion in regards to what's what, Black, African American, Negro, colored, continuously reclassifying us, and nothing specific for our group of people, other marginalized communities, even down to the action points, criminal justice, voter suppression. Nothing specific for our group of people. But when we move to other congressional caucuses, it's pretty specific in who they are representing. For instance, the Congressional Hispanic Caucus addresses national and international issues and crafts policies that impact the Hispanic community, period. We go here to the Asian Pacific Congressional Caucus. to ensure the legislation passed by the United States government to the greatest extent possible provided for the full participation of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders and reflects the concerns and needs of the Asian American and Pacific Islander communities. That's it. No other, not others, not other minorities, other marginalized communities, specific. So why aren't they the same way? And again, as Chief Alligator alluded to, it was never intended to give us anything. One is if we go back to the rural historical points, we don't have any protections as far as a defense. So we can ask for everything is all we want, but if you don't have anybody to even, protect you while you're asking, you'll never get it. We see how these states were able to secede from the Union. They had a military backing, they had a militia backing them. So we have to make sure we are in alignment with natural law and natural order of things before we can even begin to move forward as a group of people. So we'll go ahead and end right there for this week and pick back up next week within that second to last paragraph in Arkansas. But again, this is just something to think about, people.
Can you do me one favor, Chief Deco?
Go ahead.
Yeah, we're not gonna let Chief Quietwater and Chief Blackcoat slide up out of here. Let's hear what they got to say on these three caucuses. You can hear a mouse pissing on cotton. They so quiet back there.
I mean, it's obvious. It says it here. We clump everybody into our stuff. It's not just about African American or Black. It's about whoever want to jump on this whole bandwagon with us and eat off of what's supposed to be earmarked for us. So we're just not specific, and we're not, like you said, it wasn't intended to be for us. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, the Black Caucus is just an organization, it's a facade. It's for our group to think and to believe in things like Christmas and Santa Claus. It's not a real thing. Great point pointed out by Chief Alligator. Since established in 1971, the year Richard Nixon pulled the money out of the system. What a coincidence. But yeah, we beat this drum every week and explain to these folks how the Black Caucus is what we read it every week. You see who they do for, and then we read everybody else and who they specific about. Yeah, someday we're gonna pick it up and understand how this game is being played, but not neglect all the true Americans while everybody else eat. This caucus again, it's just a facade. It's to make you think, somebody's working for you. But then when you look around, you have nothing. No hospitals, no grocery store, no nothing. Protection, no hotlines. Every other group has a hotline. Seriously. So it's, again, we beat the drum every week. Our job is just to get, keep reiterating it to every week on YouTube, so everybody else can start to pick up on every little thing we say. So yeah, that's my part.
I want to ask y'all one question before we go close it out. I got one more question for y'all. Is it more important to have the right to vote? Because that's what this caucus is talking about right now, this Voting Rights Act bill, right? Is it more important to have the right to vote or to have protection of your life from the federal government? I just want to hear what y'all thought on that, because right now they're saying that we got to have the voting rights bill, but we're still not protected by this federal government. So I can lose my life, but the voting right is more important. I just want to get y'all thought on that. What's more important, the right to vote or the right that people just can't outright kill you and have protection by the federal government?
I think definitely having the protection of the government as they protect everyone else. Voting clearly does not mean anything at all, as we say every week also, and we've mentioned that it's just a wing of the same bird. So voting really doesn't matter much over the protection of our government equally as far as how they protect other groups of people.
From the great Joe Biden, like he said, you ain't black if you don't vote. So that's the wave our group on. They think voting on when would you vote for? First we gotta back it up. You know, you ask for rights to vote. What have you been voting for in the last 50 years? You can't see it. All the hoods being gentrified, people being pushed around. So it's like all this voting going on, these new people sitting in positions. Like, all right, who's helping our community, our group? So right to vote, right to, you know, to even think about having a right to vote when we already understand being a prisoner of war, all of this is irrelevant to me. So it's almost as if, you know, get the information out there so this group can understand we're in a different time. Chief Alligator already iterates this is a perfect time to pretty much step away from it and kind of organize to kind of do exactly what they were doing, seceding from the government. Again, this whole right to vote thing, propaganda, distraction. You've been voting for how long, and now they're about to go re-vote on you having the right to vote. If that don't piss you off, and it's like, all right, well, you're just out there. You just anything you get, you take it. It's like, oh, they giving us. Nah, we ain't with that. So they want to talk about right to vote. I don't vote. We don't vote. I don't know if anybody else votes, but I don't want to be a part of the team. I don't want to play for them.
Let me ask you a question, Chief Biko. I'm sorry, Chief Blackcoat. Is the right to vote more important than your life? Because right now your life isn't protected. So that's what I'm kind of asking.
Well, no, we're not protected. Our group is about, explaining to the true Americans in this world they're a prisoner of war. So no prisoner of war will be protected under a government. That's not gonna happen. They allowed us to play the voting game. We've been allowed to play the voting game for years. So now we're just, they're trying to restart the game, start it over, so they understand their position, and then we'll vote on them if they can vote again. So our group out there, talking about call 5 times a day, we're doing abnormal things now. We're playing a game that we're losing at. We haven't figured out the instructions. We haven't beat a level yet. So at this point, our lives are at risk every day being under this government. You have slave patrol patrolling every day. They shoot to kill. People talking about they thought it was a taser and a gun. We're seeing the common. You have the George Floyd, the common themes of this story. Breonna Taylor's, running around people's houses and kind of walk away with no type of rebuttal or punishment. Having for them to sit there and talk about the right to vote inside of the cabinet or the white wherever they talk about these new legislations coming out. The question of is my life more important? Of course, but we already understand that's kind of behind. We're past that. We understand being a prisoner. No one's going to protect you. There's no protection. You protect ourselves. We've built this group here on the computer to protect ourselves. We are now a kind of like a fam, so we understand what's going on. This is how it is. We're organizing, trying to do what is needed to do. So of course our lives are more important, and the right to vote should, kind of come after in a way, like, all right, protect me first, and then I see how you protect me well, and then I'll go vote, but that's not the way it is. That's not the way it is at all. Now they're just playing games with us, like we're kids. Here you go, you got dangling in your face and trying to take it away. Like they really make us, we read in the treaties how they wanted us to be dependent on them. That's how this feels to me with the whole right to vote. They want us dependent on them. Should they have the right to vote? What are you talking about? I'm a citizen, right? Or, no, what? Oh, prisoner of war, you can just do whatever you want me? Okay. So, of course, our lives are more important. And the whole voting thing is comical to me. Our people are going to just be all, panties in a bunch.
Chief Biko, I want to hear you. What's your thought? Is your life more important or the right to vote? Because what they're telling you right now is your right to vote is the most important thing, not your life.
No, I'm in alignment with Chief Quietwater and Chief Blackcoat. I mean, it's not even a question. That's just natural law, self-preservation. That's not part of voting. Ain't part of natural law as far as self-preservation. Last time I heard, I don't think the gazelle was voting to see if the lion was going to eat their ass or not. So that's kind of where my thought process is, protection by any means necessary. And as Chief, Black Coast stated, they're not going to, we already see they're not going to do that. I mean, we got 400 worth 40 years worth of documents, and that's not going to happen. So give a damn about voting for this, monopoly rules that you're trying to set up for the next 4 years of playing the game. So definitely protection is more important. But as Chief Black Coast stated, I'm not looking for this government to do that because again, we have ample time to try that.
Would voting be like a ritual? That's starting to seem like a ritual to me now. Now it's starting to seem like every year, every trimester. Sounds like a ritual to me, a European ritual. Our group just need to sit down and show them who truly holds the power. You want to dangle voting in my face? Yeah.
It is a ritual, but the way the European does it is to keep the karma off of them. They have to get you to participate willingly in your own extermination. So when you get up and support the right to vote and not support the right to have federal protection, i.e. a George Floyd Act, then, hey, you just told them you don't really want protection. You just want the right to vote. So it's kind of like they're playing us. Yeah, they're treating us like minors, and that's why they're not getting any traction right now in DC with all the rallies they've been doing the last couple of weeks with this whole right to vote thing. We didn't want a right to vote. We want reparations to kick off, but to repair us means we would have to denationalize from the United States government. We can no longer be a citizen of this government because we were citizens of a Confederacy. And then all the inventions and industries that we created, they would have to give that back. But I just wanted to pose that question, y'all, because you're going to see them. You're going to see people who look like us say, if you give us the right to vote, we'll be okay, Joe Biden. And when you stop and think about it, wow, so we're going to settle for the right to vote, but we're not going to be federally protected. So you got to watch these. Go ahead. I'm sorry, y'all.
No, like you said, though, like, why are we fighting for something that you just was able to do last year? You know what I'm saying? Like, what the hell are you talking about? Right to vote? And it's like, what? We just did that. That's why this slow nigga in office now. It's like, what? Are we that slow?
Right.
When it first came into media, I'm like, right to vote. I'm like, I think it's specifically talking about illegal immigrants, but then we're kind of bunched into that itemized group as well. Right to vote. What? All right, y'all can go play with somebody else with this one, guys. We not even this is, and it just sounds like all you have your black media on YouTube, and of course they kind of operate like our news channels, CNN, NBC, Fox, whatever. So they're getting this information too. So now you're rallying them up on, we don't. They're trying to take the right to vote away from the black community. So now that's going through the string wave, and it's like, what happened? Right. We dropped the ball that hard, like we just fell off that far, in what, less than a year, 2 years. I can't even pay attention.
We may be able to read it before they get rid of it, but you touched on it. There's a section in that right to vote in this bill that they're talking about where they want illegal immigrants to have the right to vote. Everybody who snuck in since Trump got out of office, that would probably be the nail in the coffin for this group, because once you get all of those people from Central and South America that have came through Mexico into what they call the United States jurisdiction, you give them the right to vote. We don't have to do anything specific for prisoners of war anymore. Why? We got these whole other buffer classes now. So your own people are really out for your own demise. But it'll be a minute before we get to that. But yeah, I forgot the section. We'll probably just mention it next week. I'll just quote or cite to the exact section. But yeah, they're promoting it amongst us like they're taking away our right to vote. And in reverse, they're actually giving illegal immigrants that have snuck in illegally the right to vote. That's why Europeans, these, what are they calling them? Red state, whatever. That's why they're saying you need an ID. Yeah, because if you ain't a citizen, you ain't gonna have an ID. They don't want you to vote.
Mm.
You see what I'm saying? So, but you got people that look like us. They're saying, "Oh, that's discriminatory." And I just sit back on the edge of the coin, and I'm like, "You still didn't get federal protection for your life. You're still not getting specific financial resources from this government. Why the fuck? At some point, fuck a vote. I said it. Why are you worried about voting when they can kill you?" Say it one more
That's what I
time.
was gonna run into.
Why are you worried about a vote when they can blow your brains out on video?
Right. So instead of you following the trend of the world with the whole taking the right to vote away or having the right to vote, stick to what's happening. You're being killed on camera every day, and even if you don't get to see it, it's happening every day to our group. Fuck the right to vote. What are we talking about? You guys just want to go stand in line and feel good about what? You know, me being 27, watching, let me see, Bush, Obama, Donald Trump, and now Joe Biden, seeing all of these administrations, the hood still like the hood to me. But I'm seeing other parts become more, so it's like 4 administrations and the hood still like the hood. Something ain't working for me. Right to vote. For what? What are we talking about? What are we talking? Because voting is us communicating in the way of the masses to the government. What are we talking about? Because clearly we ain't even talking.
We are not in the mix.
Not in the midst. They can still lynch you to this day. This same government has failed to pass any laws to stop you from being hung. And they're also, after George Floyd and everything that happened last year, they threw that act in the trash can and said, we're not going to protect these people specifically.
Right.
I mean, at that point,
an anti-lynch bill.
We should be back in the
Can't get
streets
that
right
passed.
now. Yeah, we should be right back in the streets right now. Like everything that happened last year, we get nothing. You got a slave holiday. You got a slave holiday. You got Black Lives Matter spray painted on DC on the streets in front of the Capitol. That's all you got.
Right, as we mentioned before, a very strategic prisoner of war occupation type of deal. Like, you know, the right to go to McDonald's, Walmart, clubs, you know, and go to oil. You can participate with the group, you know, meaning European and everything they consider, you know, worthy of their protection and guidance, funds, grants, and all those good things. Participate kind of in between the lines type of deal, while everybody else kind of actually elevates. You just participate, but everybody else, and then you start. You know, I feel like my group is about 20 years behind. Literally, like you can see the mentalities between my group and other groups. It's like, wait, what are we doing?
150. We're 150 years behind.
We're being honest, yeah.
This was a good bill. Oh, go ahead, Chief Pico.
No, I ain't have none.
Okay. All right, we're gonna shut it down. Y'all good?
Yeah.
Good bill. We'll definitely pick back up on it next week.